Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradari. Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Brajadhana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Yashoda Nandana Brajadhana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashwadharashata Shishimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashwadharashata Shishimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prams Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Yamuna Mai ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter number 17, text number 38. Sutta Uvacha. From the word for word. Abhyartitaha tada tasmai sthanani kalaye dado dyutam panam triyaha suna yatra adharmaha chathuvidha. Line by line. Sutta uvacha abhyartitasthadatasmai sthanani kalaye dodo Dyutang bhanam striyasuna yatra dharmas chaturvidah. Suta uvacha abhyartitastada tasmai sthanani kalaye tado dyutang bhanam striyashu suna yatra dharmas chaturvidah. Suta uvacha abhyartitastada tasmai sthanani kalaye dado dyutang bhanam striyasuna yatra dharmas chaturvidah.
Sutta uvacha.
Suta uvacha
Abhyartitastada tasmai.
abhyartitastada tasmai
Sthanani kalaye dado.
sthanani kalaye dado
Dyutang panang striyasuna.
dyutang bhanam striyasuna
Yatra dharmas chaturvida.
yatra dharmas chaturvidah.
Sutta vacha
Suta uvacha
Yartitastada tasmai
abhyartitastada tasmai
Sthanani kalaye dado
sthanani kalaye dado
Dyutam param striyasuna
dyutang bhanam striyasuna
Yatra dharmas chaturvidah
yatra dharmas chaturvidah.
Sutta uvacha
Sutta uvacha
avyartitastada tasmai
abhyartitastada tasmai
sthanani kalaye dada
sthanani kalaye dado
dyutam panam striyasuna
dyutang bhanam striyasuna
yatra dharmas chaturvidah
yatra dharmas chaturvidah.
Sutta uvacha
Sutta uvacha
abhyartitastada tasmai
abhyartitastada tasmai
sthanani kalaye dadau
sthanani kalaye dado
dyutang panang striyasuna
dyutang bhanam striyasuna
yatha dharmas chaturvidah
yatra dharmas chaturvidah.
Sutta uvacha
Sutta uvacha
abhyartitastada tasmai
abhyartitastada tasmai
sthanani kalaye dado
sthanani kalaye dado
dyutam panam striyashuna
dyutam bhanam striyasuna
yatra dharmas chaturvidah.
yatra dharmas chaturvidah.
Sutta uvacha
Sutta uvacha
Abhyartitastada tasmai
abhyartitastada tasmai
Sthanani kalaye dado
sthanani kalaye dado
Dyutam panam striyasuna
dyutam bhanam striyasuna
Yatra dharmas chaturvidah
yatra dharmas chaturvidah.
Sutta uvacha
Sutta uvacha
abhyartitastada tasmai
abhyartitastada tasmai
sthanani kalaye dado
sthanani kalaye dado
dyutang panam striyasuna
dyutam bhanam striyasuna
yatra dharmas chaturvidah.
yatra dharmas chaturvidah. Online? Sutta uvacha Sutta Goswami said, Abhyartitaha, thus being petitioned. Tada, at that time. Tasmai, unto him. Sthanani, places. Kalaye, to the personality of Kali. Dado, gave him permission. Dyutam, gambling. Panam, drinking. Striyaha, illicit association with women. Suna, animal slaughter. Yatra, wherever. Adharmaha, sinful activities. Chaturvidaha, four kinds of. Translation. Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, thus being petitioned by the personality of Kali, gave him permission to reside in places where gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter were performed. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Yes. Purport. The basic principles of irreligiosity, such as pride, prostitution, intoxication, and falsehood, counteract the four principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. The personality of Kali was given permission to live in four places particularly mentioned by the king, namely the place of gambling, the place of prostitution, the place of drinking, and the place of animal slaughter. Srila Jiva Goswami directs that drinking against the principles of scriptures, such as the Sotramani Yagya, association with women outside marriage, and killing animals against the injunctions of scriptures are irreligious. In the Vedas, two different types of injunctions are there for the pravrittas, or those who are engaged in material enjoyment, and for the nivrittas, or those who are liberated from material bondage. The Vedic injunction for the pravrittas is to gradually regulate their activities towards the path of liberation. Therefore, for those who are in the lowest stage of ignorance and who indulge in wine, women, and flesh, drinking by performing the Sotramani Yagya, association of women by marriage, and flesh eating by sacrifices, are sometimes recommended. Such recommendations in the Vedic literature are meant for a particular class of men and not for all. But because they are injunctions of the Vedas for particular types of persons, such activities by the pravrittas are not considered adharma. One man's food may be poison for others. Similarly, what is recommended for those in the mode of ignorance may be poison for those in the mode of goodness. Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhu therefore affirms that recommendations in the scriptures for a certain class of men are never to be considered adharma or irreligious. But such activities are factually adharma, and they are never to be encouraged. The recommendations in the scriptures are not meant for the encouragement of such adharma, but for regulating the necessary adharma gradually towards the path of dharma. Following the footsteps of Maharaj Parikshit, it is the duty of all executive heads of states to see that these principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, are established in the state, and that the principles of irreligion, namely pride, illicit female association or prostitution, intoxication, and falsity, are checked by all means, And to make the best use of a bad bargain, the personality of Kali may be transferred to places of gambling, drinking, prostitution, and slaughterhouses, if there are any places like that. Those who are addicted to these irreligious habits may be regulated by the injunctions of the scripture. In no circumstances should they be encouraged by any state. In other words, the state should categorically stop all sorts of gambling, drinking, prostitution, and falsity. The state which wants to eradicate corruption by majority may introduce the principles of religion in the following manner. 1. 2 compulsory fasting days in a month, if not more. Austerity. Even from the economic point of view, such 2 fasting days in a month in the state will save tons of food, and the system will also act very favorably on the general health of the citizens. 2. There must be compulsory marriage of young boys and girls attaining 24 years of age and 16 years of age, respectively. There is no harm in co-education in the schools and colleges, provided the boys and girls are duly married. And in case there is any intimate connection between a male and female student, they should be married properly without illicit relation. The Divorce Act is encouraging prostitution, and this should be abolished. Wow. 3. The citizens of the state must give in charity up to 50% of their income for the purpose of creating a spiritual atmosphere in the state or in human society, both individually and collectively. They should preach the principles of Bhagavatam by A. Karma Yoga, or doing everything for the satisfaction of the Lord. B. Regular hearing of the Srimad Bhagavatam from authorized persons or realized souls. C. Chanting of the glories of the Lord congregationally at home or at places of worship. D. Rendering all kinds of service to Bhagavatas engaged in preaching Srimad Bhagavatam. And E. Residing in a place where the atmosphere is saturated with God consciousness. If the state is regulated by the above process, naturally there will be God consciousness everywhere. Gambling of all description, even speculative business enterprise, is considered to be degrading. And when gambling is encouraged in the state, there is a complete disappearance of truthfulness, allowing young boys and girls to remain unmarried more than the above mentioned ages, and licensing animal slaughterhouses of all description should be at once prohibited. The flesh eaters may be allowed to take flesh as mentioned in the scriptures and not otherwise. Intoxication of all description, even smoking cigarettes, chewing tobacco, or the drinking of tea, must be prohibited. Sutta uvacha abhyartitastada tasmai sthanani kalaye dadau dyutam bhanam striyasuna yatra dharmaschaturvidaha. Translation. Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, thus being petitioned by the personality of Kali, gave him permission to reside in places where gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter were performed. So, Prabhupada mentions that he just repeats again that the 4 principles of irreligion, pride, prostitution, intoxication, and falsehood. So pride counteracts which? Which one? Humility, yes, and austerity in this case. So if the pride means that you're not humble, and means that if you're not humble, then that means you can't do austerity. which is very interesting, actually. And actually, it makes a lot of sense that if we're proud, then we won't be able to take up voluntarily any inconveniences. So then prostitution is defeating which? Cleanliness. Cleanliness of mind, cleanliness of body. Actually, the whole thing is actually dirty. Intoxication defeats I think this one is the mercy. Austerity and cleanliness? Really? Yeah. So Ananda Prabhu was just mentioning that these different irreligious principles counteract all four of the religious principles. It's not that one is for one. There was a purport where Prabhupada was making the links to these things. Yes. So all these things, falsehood is directly counter to the principle of truthfulness. So all these things are counteracting the religious principles. So then Prabhupada mentions that Srila Jiva Goswami, he gives some direction or some elucidation on these points that there is some injunctions in the scripture which give license for some of these activities in certain circumstances for certain persons, right? Which is that you can drink, but you have to do it in part of a yajna, which is called Sotramani Yajna. There may be some reference to this somewhere else in the Bhagavatam, but I haven't heard. But in this yajna, then one can participate in intoxication. And Srila Jiva Goswami is saying, if you associate with women outside of marriage and you kill animals against injunctions of the scriptures, which we know there are some animal sacrifices which may allow for eating of flesh, as Prabhupada mentions that in a certain case, at a certain interval of time, you go outside of the city with a goat and you go to the Kali temple, right? There's a difference between Kali and Kali. Kali is, but it's interesting because they're very closely related, you know? Like the age of Kali is where all these irreligious principles are there. And this is the influence ultimately of the material energy, which is represented by goddess Kali. Everybody is under her grips by our forgetfulness of Krishna. So anyway, so then you go to this temple with the goat, and then you whisper in the goat's ear, I kill you now, and you kill me next time. Then you kill it, and then you eat it. Strange. That's really strange. But so amazing is this Vedic culture that people were willing to satisfied their more or less illicit desire by following these principles at some point in time. This was the procedure. And persons were religious, they were trained to follow this even if they want to do something which is not recommended. So Prabhupada mentions that it's never to be considered a dharma because it's given in the scriptures if they follow it properly. But actually, these principles of irreligion, which for some classes of men, there's some leniency, those are actually a dharma. But such activities are factually a dharma, which is very interesting because there's pravrita and nivrita, which is that there's this pravriti marg or nivriti marg, that if you want to enjoy this material world, you should do it according to the scriptures, then you really enjoy. But you also get purified by following the process, and you'll become free from your illicit desires. Whereas the nivriti marg is for those who are ready to give up their attachment to this material sense enjoyment and make advancement on the real path of liberation, which is actually culminating in Krishna Bhakti or Vishnu Bhakti. So, very interestingly enough, it's been association with women, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling of all sorts. These are actually adharma. But there are some, there are some provisions. That's the word. Because actually, we're not these bodies. So all four of these things actually have to do with the bodily conception of life. Thinking that I am this body, therefore I have something to do with these 4 points. So now the point here is that indulging this word indulging is particularly used. So there is a way to, specifically there is a way to make married life a sacrifice for Krishna and transcendental activity. So that should be understood too. Prabhupada oftentimes corrected people when they said that you Hare Krishna say no sex. Say, who has said, no sex? I have not said. I said no illicit sex. So that's there. But actually, I'm not a man. That person is not a woman. That's a body. So 2 bodies trying to enjoy. In a short time, these will be skeletons. 2 skeletons trying to enjoy. Not very romantic. So anyway, we got to give it up eventually. What to do? So, actually, our spiritual masters want us to become pure devotees. So in one sense, we have to give up everything in relation to our bodily identification, but we learn how to use everything in the Lord's service, and in that way we renounce everything. So it may look different for different devotees, and we just try to stay alive by somehow or other fixing our mind on Krishna. So Prabhupada at the end of this purport gives amazing instructions for human society. 5 instructions. Fasting for Ekadashi. And he mentions that there's some material benefits too. Health will be increased and there will be so much money saved, which is you know. Yeah, Prabhupada's writing these books. It's amazing the way that he's preaching to us, and he's also teaching us to preach to others. He sees that, you know, we need to be convinced on a few different points of angles of vision. Economically, 2 fasting days in a month is going to be good. You know, that's a lot of money for that much food. Of course, you know, we're fasting from grains and beans mandatorily on these days. But still, there may be some money saved from not consuming or cooking too many grains. So then, the second point is there must be compulsory marriage of young boys and girls attaining 24 years of age and 16 years of age, respectively. This is far out. Then Prabhupada says there's no harm in co-education in the schools and colleges, provided the boys and girls are duly married. And so that if there is some intimate connection between two students, they should be married. And this Divorce Act, he says, is more or less encouraging prostitution. Link up, get some benefits, mutual benefits, you know? And then let's sign the papers. You know, I bring you the papers and we're done. You're smelly anyway. You know, I'm going to take your money and go. Right? So these things are things that we heard about and we've seen it practically on the TV and different stories, but we never put it together. This is just prostitution that we're doing. And everybody's at fault. You know, everybody. So this is not going to be tolerated in Prabhupada's society. So the citizens of the state should give up to 50%. So then he says that they should give 50%, and then also they should engage in five things. Karma yoga, we're doing everything for Krishna's satisfaction. Regular hearing of Bhagavatam from the realized souls, chanting the glories of the Lord congregationally, rendering all types of service to the devotees who preach this Bhagavatam, and residing in a place where the atmosphere is saturated with God consciousness. And this is the point of the temples, that we can engage in all 5 of these things, and the society can take good advantage of this facility to do so. And in order for them to do so, there has to be pure devotees here. There has to be service attitude filled with God consciousness. There has to be chanting. There has to be facilities for people to stay, or there has to be people who are maintaining homes, which are just like a temple. And there has to be knowledge of how to act for the satisfaction of the Lord. And there has to be regular hearing of the Bhagavatam. So, anyway, sorry to take so much time, devotees. Maybe if somebody wants to give any correction or something, they can share something. Time. Okay, please excuse me. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees.